from the crypt.
Hello, boys and ghouls. Welcome to episode 50 of Dads from the Crypt, a Tales from the Crypt podcast. My name is Jason. I'm joined by Jody.
Hello.
And Mondo.
What's up?
See,
If we change one little thing, this would
the
happen.
whole show falls apart.
Would you
The
say
same chaos.
I came in hot with my hello, and then
Chaos reigns. And it's just the three of us tonight. Boys are all together. We'll going back to basics for a week. We've had some amazing guests lately, and you guys have been some guests some places. Why don't you tell us about that?
Yeah, you can find me on this past week's horror script podcast with Rich, who was a guest on our show a few weeks back because we talked Chucky episode 6, which is a lot of fun. He's got a really cool podcast over there, so check it out anywhere your podcasts are found. And then I think a mutual one Jody and I were both on was I was on Films at First Sight doing a quick little rundown of one of the shorts from the Chattanooga Film Festival, and I forgot the name of the short. And
What It Feels Like for a Girl, was that yours?
Yeah. Jody apparently knows better. I know that I do.
Yeah, I'm also going to be on Films at First Sight too, discussing the rest of Chattanooga Film Fest with friends of the show, Whitney and Lara, where we talk about way too many movies in one podcast. I think we talked about 15. That's a lot of movies to talk about at one time.
I'm looking forward to it though, because if it's anything like last year's, I love the format that was used, and last year was really good discussion, so I'm pretty stoked for that.
Yeah,
looking forward to it.
Nice. Then I'm recording tomorrow night for a podcast called The House That Screams Horror, and I'm going to be doing The Burning.
Oh, I love The Burning.
I have lots of thoughts. It's a movie where not to go too deep into it, I think the sum of its parts is better.
Sure.
The overall experience is better, but like it's a movie that has really creepy guys. Like every guy in that movie.
Oh yeah.
Creepy.
I mean, it's produced by Harvey Weinstein. So
when you consider that.
I like The Burning because I feel like, all in the 80s, parents were warning people like, don't watch all these slasher movies. They're just like sex and violence and trash. And The Burning absolutely is that.
Yes,
and that's what's great about it. Like it is the prototypical, like, this is the movie your parents don't want you to watch, and that's why I love it.
And the best part is our parents told us don't watch that because it's sex, violence, and trash. And we were like, where do I get sex, violence, and trash at? Please,
absolutely.
Tell me now.
And Jason Alexander looking better than I've ever seen Jason Alexander looking.
And also it actually has kids at a summer camp. Anytime I see any summer camp movie where there's no kids, I'm like, no, doesn't register.
Safe.
I know. But you can hear the rest of my thoughts in a great little podcast. Again, The House That Screams Horror. And I was supposed to plug it up in a couple weeks. Nice. Just to tease that a little bit. And then Mondo, you had a nice little trip yourself.
Dude, I had the best weekend. And again, shout out to Joe from Films at First Sight for letting me crash his house one night when I couldn't figure out how to order an Uber. I was at Blobfest out in Phoenixville. And also shout out to Bob from Blobfest, because that guy took time to talk with me, and I could just tell he was busy running around like a chicken with his head cut off, trying to get all this stuff going on. I will say, like, I didn't quite know what to expect. When it came to Blobfest, the whole like run out thing was always kind of my bucket list to go do. So if anybody that doesn't know, the original Blob was filmed in Phoenixville.
That's in Pennsylvania?
About an hour outside of Philadelphia. And the Colonial Theater is from the infamous scene where the Blob attacks the theater and everybody runs out. So on Friday night, you do the run out where everybody runs out of the theater when the Blob comes to attack. And then they have movies showing all weekend. The whole town turns into like Blob themes, where the storefronts, there's a contest for the storefronts on who can do the best Blob facade. Nice. And then street vendors, costume contests at a brewery down there called Root Down, which is a great brewery. They had a concert down there with a David Bowie cover band, a Smashing Pumpkins cover band, and a Misfits cover band. I apologize, off the top of my head, I don't remember the names, but if you search Blobfest cover bands, and they're all pretty good, but that Misfits cover band, and I'm by no means a big Misfits fan, but they fucking killed it. They were just a great band. But I had a great time, got to meet Joe's family. Joe has a beautiful family, like really do. And I'm not just saying that because I can say that, but they're really an awesome family. And it was cool to meet everybody. His kids are awesome. His wife, Laura's awesome. And I'd recommend if anybody gets a chance to go to Blobfest, it was such a fun experience. Enough to where like I'm at the airport on Sunday looking at real estate in Phoenixville. Like how do I move? It has a real good small town charm to it. And just and everyone I met, because Joe might as well be the mayor of that city, because I swear like we couldn't walk 5 feet without meeting someone that Joe knew. But it is just, everyone there is amazing. And I've said it before and I'll say it again, horror people are just the best people.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people have that apprehension when it comes to a lot of cult things, right? It feels like it's such a gate to get inside of that door. I mean, a perfect example is douchebag metalheads with what's going on with Stranger Things and Metallica. Like, you're trying to gatekeep for a band that's been the biggest band in the world for like fucking 20 years. Fuck off. But horror fans seem to be so inviting. Like, they can't wait till, oh man, you like Halloween? Have you seen this slasher? No, people are just so excited and so happy to invite everyone into our little community of geeks. And it's just a beautiful thing. I mean, that's how we found each other. That's how I met Joe, and it's great.
Yeah, I unfortunately did not make it to Blobfest, even though I wanted to, but I did get to meet Joe and his wife a couple weeks beforehand when they came to Nashville, and just great people.
Definitely.
I think for a lot of people, a lot of horror fans, at least for me, when I was a kid, horror was like a pretty solitary activity. Like, I was into horror, but like I didn't have any friends that were into it. I didn't know anyone who was. So like Friday nights, I'd watch movies by myself, and I really loved all the movies, but I didn't have anyone to share it with. So when I came into these communities of people who love horror, like, instant connection. And I love it.
And with that being said, Jody, I owe you a very sincere apology. So for 2 years, Jody, you've been saying how Spontaneous is like one of your favorite movies. And on the plane ride home from Philadelphia, I watched that movie and I was like, this is one of my favorite movies.
Yeah.
That movie was so good.
It was really good. Yeah.
I had a row to myself. And it's a good thing my eyes are still dry from this fucking LASIK surgery. Cause like I was holding it in, dude. Cause that's such it was not what I expected. And I mean that in the best way possible. And just such a heartwarming heartwarming. It's one of those things where it's like at the end of it, I was sad, but I was also like,
it's almost
love the message
at the end.
Yes. 100% agree. Like, I'm getting goosebumps talking about it because like it's so many feels. So I have to apologize to you that it took me 2 years to watch this film.
I'm so glad that people are finally starting to discover it, because go ahead, Jason.
I think the movie hits even more in the COVID age, because it came out right before that. But again, during COVID, with the class being quarantined and the disruption of their school year and their life, really kind of hits the whole other level. And again, I think watching movies on Mond, I know you do a lot of travel, but watching a movie on the plane, especially for the first time, is almost like a dicey experience, because sometimes it just might not hit very well. So I usually try not to watch new movies, especially a heavy one. Though I did watch The Hangover on the plane to Israel for the first time. I was laughing my ass off.
Well, usually on an airplane, I'm a music guy. I put headphones on, I listen to a bunch of albums I haven't heard before. But you know what? I was riding such a high of this Blobfest. That's such a good weekend. I'm like, I've been wanting to watch this movie. I need to watch this movie. And I'm really happy that I did. Because even though, like I said, it's a heavy film, but it's still it's just a great movie. And it takes you through all those emotions.
Well, yeah, because it's heavy, but it's not just heavy. Like, there are scenes that were like laugh out loud funny.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like, there are some moments that are really scary. Like, I mean, there are moments that are super tense and sad, but also inspired. Like, I'm so glad people are discovering, especially like you said, Jason, coming off this time where we've been in the pandemic, that feeling of like constant doom is in that movie.
Yes.
And yes, it's super relatable.
And,
after what we've been through these last few years.
I'm gonna say some spoilers here, so if you haven't seen it, just pause for a few minutes on our podcast and don't listen to this, because you really should experience it with as much of a clean slate as you can think of. Because but like with the relationship with the two main characters, I was really like every scene they're together, I'm like, oh fuck, this is a scene where it's gonna happen. And eventually, it does. And the way they did that, oh my god, was
right in the middle of that
so
that
good.
Spin.
And
you didn't even know what happened for sure.
But you knew, but you didn't know.
You knew it happened to somebody, but
what I love about though, you know what happened in the back of your brain, you know what happened, but you're hoping you're wrong.
Right.
And a great movie does that to you. Yeah, and I don't know about you guys, but when I made my daughter watch it last night because I had some stuff to do. I was like, here, I'll put this on while I go get, it's been a busy week at work. And she really loved it. She hated one thing about it. She's like, I wish I'd have known what caused it. I'm like, yeah.
Well, you want to know, but I like that you don't.
Yeah, but again, a younger person watching, I get that.
Sure.
But she was surprised. I loved it so much. And I was like, but I think though, like I don't put myself in either role of the character. I put myself in the parental role. And I sometimes think of like the horror of not like realizing, is my kid gonna come, what's gonna happen to my child? And there's an end scene where that scene on the grave. Damn it.
Oh gosh,
damn it. Like that fucking broke me.
Yeah.
Because all I could feel was the mother's pain and the way she handled it. And even though she's in so much pain, how she's still trying to make everything okay for everybody else. And that's what parents do sometimes. And
I like the parents in that movie too, because they're supportive of their daughter. They're trying to help her through it. Like there's a scene where things are so bad that the dad's like, you want to smoke some weed? Not just because it's like there's nothing. He knows there's nothing I can do in this situation. I just want to help you like not be stressed for a little while. Like just trying to take care of his family.
I'll sound like a bad parent here, and I'm okay with that. But I still remember one time, my daughter didn't quite I think she had a brain fart that I wasn't home. and I was sitting on the couch, and she just walked in with she went to the garage, went to my beer fridge, and comes inside with the White Claw. And I looked at her, and she goes, this happened like 3 weeks ago.
Okay.
So 19. And she says to me, she's okay. I'm like, are you driving anywhere tonight? She goes, no. I'm like, have fun. Like, you're in a safe place, you're at home. Let's be honest.
It's a White Claw.
Dude, well, let's be honest, man. Like, it's funny because, like, as parents, sometimes you think my kids aren't going to do what I did when I was a teenager. Of course they are. They're fucking kids. That's what we did. I'd rather her be on the couch at home having a White Claw than being at a party having 10 White Claws. So it's. I just thought it was funny though, because that's what kids do. So, like, you know what? That's. I think the parents were very realistic. The kids are very realistic. I really related to the main character because I have pretty bad gallows humor. But like I'm pretty sure I almost made my my HR person call the police on me, but a whole long story, because I made a suicide joke, which I do all the time, and it's how I cope with some things in my life, which I shouldn't. But I really related to the main character too, and just her gallows humor. And very, very great movie. We're getting way off track, and Jason's like, we're on a timetable.
Come on, guys.
wrap it up. So that being said, long story though. To wrap back around and get back where we're trying to go to, shout out to Bob from Blobfest. Pleasure meeting you, man. And I can't wait. I'll be back next year for sure. And it's also very, very family friendly. Bring your whole family and have a great time in Phoenixville.
Nice.
Yeah, and watch Spontaneous. It's streaming now
on Amazon Prime.
And on Amazon Prime. Yeah, you've got Amazon Prime. Might as well watch it. Do it.
Okay. Tonight, though, this is the Tales of the Crypt podcast, in case you're coming back. We're going to talk about the season 4 episode of Maniac at Large, which premiered on August 19th, 1992. Jody, give us a plot synopsis.
All right. So we open on the Crypt Keeper as a real estate agent, which, right now a real estate agent is probably scarier than anything on the show if you're in the middle of trying to buy a house. So we start in a library. We kind of see some of the various patrons that are walking around this library. And a man is reading a newspaper with the headline Maniac at Large on it. And this kid just like stabs the newspaper with a knife and takes it away from the man. Security guards. Yeah, hooligans just stabbing newspapers in the library. Security guard named Grady kicks the boys out for writing on a table, and then Margaret, the librarian, she's new there, goes to clean the table and sees the headline and the kid's switchblade, and she pockets the switchblade. The music is super dramatic in this scene and kind of throughout the entire episode. Like it's very
Bill Conti.
yeah, very stagey kind of music. So anyway, the guard escorts a homeless woman out of the library and starts talking about the killer. And he doesn't like that the head librarian, whose name is Miss Pritchard, is upset, and he doesn't like her and is upset that they have to work late with this killer on the loose. We meet Miss Pritchard. She complains that people don't dress up to come to the library anymore, which I'm not sure when people did that, but okay, sure. She tells Margaret she needs to stay late to do inventory. And she also tells her to keep her voice down because of library manners. So she kind of comes across as this micromanaging kind of manager. And as Margaret is putting up some books, a man startles her by asking her about checking out a book. And he starts talking about serial killers and goes on and on about killers and crime, and says the next victim's going to be a woman. And I just want to make a quick side note here for true crime people. Lots of people are into true crime. When you talk about it to normal people, though, it scares them. It's creepy. Like if you want to be obsessed with serial killers, that's fine. Just don't tell normal people about it. They don't want to know.
I will say though, it's kind of weird in a way how true crime has kind of permeated that pop culture barrier and is now kind of just a part of pop culture.
Sure.
Because I've always enjoyed true crime, but now it's like bombards me from every angle. Or before, I kind of like had to seek it if I wanted to look at it, and now it's like Netflix is like, here's 8 more movies about or
would you like to watch a serial killer documentary?
Yeah. So that's kind of weird, but I bet there's I bet someone's done some kind of study on why we're infatuated with that, but who knows?
My wife, who can't watch horror, watch some series about people on death row, like death row interviews. I'm just like, I can't. I told her I can't watch this.
I've been lately too, same way. My wife's watched a few, and I'm like, I just don't. And there are some things I will just not even touch, like if it involves kids. I won't even touch it.
Yeah, this went there, and I was just like, I cannot do this.
Like, there's nothing jovial or happy about them, and it's the older I get, the more I'm kind of like man, I used to always like be into books about Ed Gein and stuff like that, or Dahmer. I'm like, the mind's fascinating, but man, like they shouldn't. We shouldn't be celebrating serial killers.
All right, so this guy does though, and he makes her very uncomfortable. She gets more and more distressed as he keeps talking about this subject. He really kind of pushes it, like he gets right up in her face and gets very excited about serial killers.
Oh, and also working at Barnes and Noble at bookstores, you always had creepy little goth kids that would come up and shuffle up to the fucking book counter and be like, "Do you have any books about serial killers?" So what you do is you say, "Yeah, right over here. Let me show you my favorite ones."
There you go. So later in the basement, Margaret sees a shadow of someone and has a knife. So she screams and calls on Grady to come down and check. And I was a little confused about what happened here. It looks like she sees some shoes and kind of freaks out. And Grady shows her it's his alcohol in a bag. I didn't see exactly what happened there.
He had a giant bottle of giant bottle of alcohol.
Big bag. Yeah. Then he touches her hand and she kind of freaks out and runs away and tells Mrs. Pritchard is talking with the police officer at the time, and she tells them what she saw, but they don't really believe her. And they go down and find a book full of pictures of naked people that's all sliced, like the book is all sliced up, and they blame those kids from earlier, even though they've been gone for a long time.
I couldn't figure out what that was.
I do love though how offended she is that they ruined the book.
Right. So when the officer leaves, Margaret tells Mrs. Pritchard that Grady has been drinking on the job. She says, "I can't replace him, but I'll deal with him in my own way."
Snitch.
And the library's closing in 10 minutes. Margaret sees Grady and Mrs. Pritchard arguing and pretends not to. And then Grady kind of disappears for a while. Mrs. Pritchard goes to get sandwiches and leaves Margaret alone in the library. Except for the true crime guy is still there, still super excited over serial killers. And he kind of creepily keeps talking about how hard it is to kill someone with a knife. Which again, just don't do this with normal people. This is not normal people conversation. She cringes away, and then he offers to stay until she returns and talks about murder some more. And she just gets more and more uncomfortable, and he finally leaves. He says he'll be back tomorrow to get his book.
I mean, yeah, this character is the classic red herring. That's such a red herring. You think
Oh yeah.
you come back around like, well, if he's such a red herring, maybe he actually is it because that would be clever. Yada.
Right. Anyway, he leaves, and about the time she locks the door, this other man comes to the door and like presses his face on the door and starts beating on the door and shaking the like after he stops doing that, he goes to the emergency door and starts shaking it from the outside. And she sets off the alarm, and it's all very big and dramatic and scary. And then the alarm stops. Mrs. Pritchard comes back. She says the man at the door is just someone who comes in late all the time to drop off books. He has a bone disorder, so that's why he looks scary. She also finds out that Mrs. Pritchard had cut off the phone earlier for work purposes, she said. And Mrs. Pritchard brings her up to her office and makes the comment that the killer could just as easily be a woman. And Margaret gets even more nervous. And then Margaret accuses Mrs. Pritchard of being the murderer, grabs her around the neck, attacks her, and stabs her with the switchblade from earlier, while saying she's just like all the others. And then Grady comes in, sees this scene with Mrs. Pritchard dead, and Margaret talks to the corpse of Mrs. Pritchard and says that it looks like she's going to have to resign. The city just makes her too nervous. And that's it. kind of ends on, I feel like there needed to be something a little bit more at the end there, but yeah, that's the end of it.
All right. Mondo, what'd you think?
Oh, actually, especially after last week, I really like this episode. I love the aesthetic of the old library, the old bookstore.
Mm-hmm.
It reminded me, have you ever seen the old slasher film, I, Madman?
Oh, yeah.
That's what my first vibes of that I, Madman, which is also my favorite underrated slashers, which makes me want to buy a bookstore in a small town in 1989. But I need a time machine first. But I really enjoyed the episode. I enjoyed the red herrings because, kind of like Jody mentioned, is they went over the top with them to kind of make you think like maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I love Mrs. Pritchard's line at the end because she plays it to the camera too, almost breaks the fourth wall with it and almost looks at the camera when she says, maybe it's a woman. And you're thinking, oh shit, it's Miss Pritchard. She's the old bag killing people. And like I said, I would have liked a little more at the ending there, just maybe a little bit of a. I think it was kind of clear that obviously it was the main character being the serial killer. But I think maybe just a little something at the end, maybe a little bit of a. Sorry, I had to cough there. I didn't want to cough it in the microphone, but maybe just a little bit. I don't know what at the end, something to kind of maybe flush it out just a little bit better would have been fantastic. But I thought all the performances were great. And again, the whole movie is basically inside this bookstore, or the whole episode, which is also really cool when they can do so much with a set. And I never got bored with the set because the way it was shot and all the different angles they used. So I'm going to say this is definitely a thumbs up for me.
Yeah, I really enjoyed how it almost felt like you can make a play out of this.
Oh yeah,
you can easily do like a one act. You could easily even like a one act play. The way it's almost real time and it's all one setting basically. A couple different rooms, but all in the same building. Great actors and actresses. This was directed by John Frankenheimer, who did the original Manchurian Candidates, French Connection 2, The Island of Dr. Moreau, which is a whole thing into itself. But he did a ton of TV. He has such a good eye for camera and for shots. It's really impressive. The red herrings are fun. So again, the main character Margaret is played by Blythe Danner. She was in Prince of Tides, Tu Wong Fu, the X-Files movie. She was in Meet the Fockers and Meet the Parents, which I really don't like those movies. American Gods, she's in currently.
The only good thing about the Meet the Fockers movies is just the one-liners from Robert De Niro. But even that, those weren't.
Yeah, I really don't like those movies.
Those are kind of like those. Let's lowest common denominator films.
Yes,
call
sure.
No offense if anybody likes those. I like some really dumb movies, but they weren't for me.
Yeah. Mrs. Pritchard is played by Salome Salome Jens, who was in Seconds, which is a fantastic thriller from like the 60s. And then she was in like the MacGyver. One of the years she's still doing voice work. She was in the Avatar: Last Airbender. What's really cool is the security guard Grady is played by Clarence Williams III, He was in the Mod Squad, the original Mod Squad. He was in Maniac Cop 2. He was also in Tales from the Hood, and he was also in Half Baked.
And he has by far the best IMDb profile picture I've ever seen.
Yeah.
His picture is him, like, I guess he's in full Mod Squad gear. He's got a big afro. He's got these sunglasses. I'm like, I've never looked as cool in my life as he looks in that one picture.
Right. And then the what we're calling the true crime guy, he's played by a new wave musician named Adam Ant. He was also like an MTV VJ. So I thought he was actually a really fun character.
I thought so too. I thought he played that creepy role really, really well.
Yeah, no, he's a great character.
Also a little charismatic too. We're like, okay, if he tones it down a little bit, I can hang with that guy.
But I like the way I like the fact though he hammed it up just a little bit, right? Like he played that character just a little bit over the top. To what Jody's point is, you couldn't quite tell, like, is he playing this character for kind of laughs to throw you off the trail, and then he's going to be the reveal at the end. So I loved his performance.
Yeah, the problem. This is a really good episode. The only problem with it being like a whodunit is because it's so short. There's only so many characters you can put in.
Right.
So pretty much halfway through, I figured out it was going to be Margaret. Like I kind of figured, by process of elimination, I kind of figured it was going to be her, and that would be the clever twist, which is a clever twist. But I think we've seen that twist so many times since then, since the comic came out, since when this episode came out, we're kind of conditioned to think that.
You know what though? I honestly never thought that. It never crossed my mind until the end when she was alone with Miss Pritchard.
Oh, really?
It's the only time I had that thought. And I just think, Jason, I try to enjoy things and I overanalyze them like some people.
I know it's I can turn like again out of my head when I watch a whodunit. I just do the process of elimination kind of thing.
I get it. I'm just joking. I used to be that way, and then now I try just write it.
Yeah.
I was also super tired watching this and trying to like just wrap my brain around the fact I was alive. So
right.
I think I've trained my brain to not try to figure out movies anymore, because people tell me all the time, like, oh yeah, I saw that twist coming. I never see the twist coming. I don't think it's because I'm an idiot. I think I just intentionally don't think about things when I'm watching movies.
Yeah, it's how you watch it.
Surprised.
I see it. So I try to get myself. I try to lose myself in the movie and not like my goal of a movie is to forget about everything and just engross myself. And that's not a knock. Like I know people like maybe like you do, Jason, where you want to think about that and that and you enjoy that. It's totally fine.
I think
if you're watching a good mystery that's like really like well done, where you really don't know what's going on, then the figuring out things is part of the fun. Like you're watching Knives Out or something.
I was about to say Knives Out. Yeah, there's no way you can figure that one out, but it makes so much sense.
But that's part of the fun for something like that,
But also when I'm watching something for a podcast, I'm thinking of it in a more critical sense than like just letting it wash over. But anyways, I still really like this episode. All that aside, I thought it was a really good episode, especially after the last couple of weeks we're kind of straying from the formula because they weren't Tales from the Crypt episodes technically. This is a good return to form.
And another thing too, it did kind of almost feel like a haunted house movie, where like a really slow build haunted house. And I really love the way they use sound in this, to kind of emphasize that. And real fast, the composer of this is Bill Conti,
right,
who did the Rocky films, did Masters of the Universe.
Oh yeah, I love that score. No, I'm not kidding. I love that movie and I love that score.
I think Masters of the Universe is like, it's already kind of getting a resurgence. I think the next 5 years, people are going to look back at that film and be like, how do we not love this? Because it's just cheesy, ridiculous fun.
I watched that movie so much when I was a kid. The VHS tape literally wore out.
See, it's funny, and I didn't like it as a kid because it wasn't like the He-Man from TV.
Yeah,
and I think it, and not to get way off topic, but I think what Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles the movie did was it captured both. It made like this gritty film that adults could get into and like, but also like was so true to the cartoon. Where as a kid I loved it, and I still stand by the fact that movie, the original TMNT, holds up today, and is one of my favorite depictions of New York City in the history of film. Like just so much fun. But he also did one of my favorite movies. If anybody loves the kind of if you like American Me, the movie, and you haven't seen Blood In, Blood Out, Bound by Honor, you owe it to yourself to watch that movie. One of the best ever, like I guess Mexican crime films ever made. If you grew up like I did in a Mexican household with fucking wannabe gangbangers and real ones, my cousins are in prison if you guys want to talk about it. But Blood In, Blood Out was like the rite of passage. Everyone watch that movie. If you meet I'm not going, but if you have Mexican friends and you ask them about Blood In, Blood Out, Bound by Honor, they know what it is. And they say they don't, they're lying or they're too young, and then they need to learn. But just
Right.
I loved the music in this. I just want to say
Yeah.
I thought it was really, really well done.
Yeah, I said the music was really dramatic, but I think it was perfect for this
Yes.
episode. Like it was a little bit like over the top in its drama purposely, because this whole episode was very heightened. Like it was all in her mind. And so kind of the spiraling that she was doing the whole time, I feel like the music kind of gave you that feel of things being okay. So as somebody with anxiety issues, like you can be walking through Walmart and feel like you're dying. Okay. And so you're just walking through a store. You look normal on the outside, but inside your head's like, something's going on. That's kind of what it felt like with this librarian. Like she goes to clean off a table and she sees a headline and just, this maniac's here. And so, maybe that's what my inner music would be, is some kind of overly dramatic music as I wonder why my arm feels funny today.
One of my favorite moments in my marriage was one time I was sitting on the couch. I was kind of fidgeting. Well, I said, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm just anxious." She goes, "Why?" I just looked at her and she goes, "Oh yeah, that's right." that mental disorder
Just my
that never
brain.
goes away.
Right.
Just my brain.
So yeah, Jody, well, we kind of skipped over you a little bit. Do you have any other thoughts?
Yeah, no, I just think this is a really fun episode. I really liked Adam Ant's character. I know I was talking about the true crime guy, but he did a great job of being that over enthusiastic nerd that's a little creepy, and they did the red herring with him so well. But also I could see myself accidentally becoming that guy while talking about like horror movies or something, like, oh yeah, this scene,
Have you ever heard about this movie Spontaneous?
yeah, absolutely. I don't
Like watching people explode.
Yeah, he's just an enthusiastic nerd, and I appreciate enthusiastic nerds because I relate to them.
That's what it reminds me of when you said like this is stuff you shouldn't talk about. I think about when I'm watching like a fight in TV, and I'm like, that is not how you strangle somebody. Or I was watching something with Kel, and I saw a guy with a long neck. I'm like, man, and she goes, "You're thinking how easy that guy would be to choke?" I'm like, yeah. Also, not conversations you should have with normal people.
But yeah, thankfully I didn't know that was Adam Ant before I watched the episode. I looked that up afterwards because I only know one Adam Ant song, and that would have been playing through my head the whole time. The song Goody Two Shoes. You don't drink, don't smoke. What do you do? That one.
Yes. Okay.
That's Adam Ant. That's
And what's cool is I was looking through his IMDb, and they put one of his songs in the Ant-Man movie.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Because of course.
Jody, is that your karaoke song?
No, but it's a good song. It is a fun one.
What's your karaoke song? What's your go-to?
Do you think there's a lot of karaoke in my small ass town? like if I'm karaoke singing in my town, I'm just the man on the street corner singing out in the public. But no, I do enjoy a little karaoke sometimes. I just go where the moment takes me, and usually pick a song that's too high for me.
If you like Afro Man, because I got high, something like that, too high for you?
Not that too high.
Jason, what's your karaoke song?
I actually really don't like karaoke.
Huh? You don't?
I have a thing against karaoke. I'm sorry.
I feel like you're the guy that says you don't like karaoke, and then you fucking belt out like a perfect rendition of some Jody song.
I would have to be so drunk I wouldn't remember it the next morning to enjoy it.
I will say that I've heard about this BGH get together that happened a couple of years ago, and all I have wanted to do since then is get together with a bunch of horror movie friends, get drunk, and sing songs. So I want this to happen.
I didn't sing it all, but Mr. John Schnars was very drunk. Drunk Schnars is like my favorite person in the world, and he would not leave me alone about singing. And I'm like, I was to the point where he missed the window. Like I had that window and I'm drinking where I might do it, and I was way past that window, enough where I fell asleep on a train and paid $80 for an Uber. So,
what's yours?
I really don't have one, man. I don't. I'm even though I've been a vocalist in a band, is screeching and growling. The last song I ever did at karaoke was Leonard Skinner, "Give Me Back My Bullets."
Oh, nice.
I think if I was going to do one, or this is something I used to do in college sometimes, we would just get drunk and scream at top of our lungs.
I bet you did a lot of things in college while you were drunk.
Yeah. The System of a Down, Toxicity.
I'm sorry. Jody had the perfect eye raise moment right there. If you're not watching the video, go to our YouTube channel and watch it at this moment right here.
Well, actually, the eye raise was because I was looking up. There are several karaoke bars in Chattanooga. So next time the Chattanooga Film Fest happens, we got to make this happen.
Oh, yeah. We'll do it. We'll do it. See what happens.
So, okay. Jody, give us a comic comparison.
Okay, so this one, I think this is our first one from crime suspense stories. We've had several from shock suspense stories. It's crime suspense stories. Number 27, the March 1955 issue. Script by Jack Olek, art by George Evans. So some of the less well-known, probably why they were on crime suspense stories instead of the big names. But anyway, this one's very similar to the comic. Margaret is Blanche in this one. Mrs. Pritchard, still Mrs. Pritchard. She looks like she's 150 years old in the comic. There's no Grady. But the whole thing's staying late. It's Pritchard getting sandwiches, the headline creeping Margaret out, or Blanche.
There's,
the creepy patron is there, the after hours book return, accusing Mrs. Pritchard, murdering her. All of that is in there. The main difference is that she has this premonition that she's going to be the next victim, and that's kind of playing through her head the whole time. And at the end, in kind of the very last panel, it said something about, oh, she had killed Mrs. Pritchard before she could kill her, just like she did to all of those other 8 people. And just that addition of that one little line, it said, like, you know, definitively, she has been the serial killer, and she's doing it to like defend herself in her own like anxiety, whatever craziness. That was enough. I feel like if in the show, if there had just been one line about, you know, you're just like all the others, they've all tried to kill me and I had to kill them too, that would have been enough to really kind of nail that home.
Yeah, that'd been good.
Yeah. No, yeah, I like that comic quite a bit, actually.
Yeah, it's a really good comic. It's got a lot of the same things that this episode does. It's almost like it's dramatically lit for a comic, you know, like very dramatic angles. The coloring is very intense, and it has that same kind of heightened feel that this episode did.
One thing I love about the comics is that I've kind of discovered like how kind of forward thinking a lot of the EC comics were. And I think it really gave a showcase some of these artists and writers to kind of almost like Tales from the Crypt, the TV show does, gives kind of that leeway to actors to do what they want. And it gave a lot of these artists and writers a leeway to do just kind of outside the box thinking, outside the box things. And I bet they had a really good time and were really creative doing it. So I think it's really cool.
We've talked about how progressive the comic was for the time, but also just on an artistic level, like they really got to be very experimental and do some really cool stuff with the poses and the settings and the lighting and the angles. Like they were very interesting. If you go back and look at like Marvel comics from the same era, I guess that's Silver Age Marvel or Silver Age DC comics, there was a lot of good storylines, but they didn't have this level of intensity in the art that you got from something like an EC comic.
It still felt like it fit inside of a box, if that makes sense. Like it still fit inside very like defined constraints.
Right. Yeah. No, the other comics at the time were very the reputation of comics being for kids. A lot of that came from that era, as the comics were, you know, very clean. Like the storylines were very, you know, good versus evil, and good guys always won. And you know, Batman had a blue suit and he wasn't scary at all, you know, that kind of thing. And EC was really kind of pushing the boundaries of what was available in comics at the time.
When you mentioned Batman, it's just stoked a weird memory in my brain that I haven't had in years. And it was the sound of the Batman NES game, the first one, which at the time was like revolutionary for graphics and whatnot. But when you killed Batman, he died in like this flame that came out like the Batman logo.
Okay.
And it had a very specific theme that was like dun, and but much darker than I just made that sound and not as off key. But I don't know why that just sparked that image of Batman dying in that game just sparked in my brain. So
yeah, it took the mainstream comics probably until the 70s to really start kind of pushing the envelope, and then all through the 90s. We got the grimdark version of a lot of these characters, but EC was doing that years before.
Right. All right, let's move on to our episode ranking. Mondo, what do you give this episode out of 5?
I am actually bouncing back and forth between a 4 and a 4.5, but in true to fashion, whenever I have to think, is it 4 or 4.5? I go with the lower number because that means there's something about it's not giving me a 4.5. But so I'm going to give it a 4. I think this is an awesome episode. I love the haunted house vibe. Love the performances. Love the music. But like Jody said, I think it just left something at the end to be desired. It's almost like if you got that. It's almost like if you wake up in the morning and you know that you made muffins the night before, and you had some muffins. I'm getting there, Jason, and you're like, I'm going to have this morning. I'm going to have that last blueberry muffin that I saved last night. And you go downstairs to your kitchen, you're ready for work, you're feeling good, and someone ate that goddamn muffin. You're still happy you had the muffins because they were delicious the night before, but you didn't get that final muffin, which is what you really wanted. Therefore, we give it the same number of horsemen, not the biblical, but the 4 horsemen from WCW NWA era. We give it a 4.
Okay. Jody, somehow follow that up.
Yeah, so mine's not going to be nearly as interesting, but yeah, I was bouncing back and forth between a 4.5 and a 4 as well. But yeah, I do think this is a 4. It's a really good episode, but that ending just needed just a little punch. If it had that, I think it would have been there.
Yeah, I'm with the 4 as well. That's what I agree with everything you say. Just did not quite stick the landing as solidly as it could have. But overall, it's still a very good episode.
Real quick, I'm going to start a new segment without telling you guys.
Okay.
So I just had to click on this link because I was looking at Bill Conte's credits while we're talking. He did, and we're going to talk about weird films that these people did, and I'm just going to read the synopsis and nothing else of this film. He did a film he scored a film in 1998 called The Real Macaw, like the bird macaw. Bear with me on the description of this movie. John Goodman is somehow in this. The description is a 140-year-old parrot with an attitude and a teenage boy who go in search of buried treasure in an attempt to save the boy's free-spirited and youthful grandfather from living the rest of his life in a retirement home.
What? What?
That was definitely a Mad Lib. Some producers did a Mad Lib for a movie. Yeah,
it's got a 5.4 on IMDb, which is higher than most.
Yeah,
most of the movies I love. Have lower ratings than that.
Yeah, it's funny because as a horror movie fan, you just cannot trust. You just can't trust IMDb.
No, not at all.
But holy shit! Like, who wrote that movie? Like, you know what we should do? A boy and a parrot. And like, how did they get 140 years old? Like, where did they pull that? Anyhow, off topic, but I wish I didn't click on that link.
But also, I went to it. It does have a parrot wearing sunglasses as the cover image as well.
That's the best part about it is it's super 1990s. Like, it's a bunch of 60-year-old men sitting in a room in marketing going, what's cool with kids nowadays? Oh,
parrots.
I know. Oakley sunglasses and parrots.
Is it McCawsome?
Hold on a second.
You came up with a better tagline than the movie.
The tagline is big secret, big mouth, big trouble.
What?
The real macaw. Like, that could also be the tagline for a porno.
Yeah. Wow. All right, moving on.
Real fast. There's also a review on the front of the box. A real charmer, a feel-good family film from Urban Cinephile, which we need to see like what other movies they reviewed because I don't trust any.
I don't know what government list they're on because Urban Cinephile just sounds dirty.
Holy crap. There's also, okay, I'm just saying. I made another mistake. I clicked next on the box art. The next image, if you're on IMDb, Jody, go to the next image. The next one looks like the Lion King.
I know. I saw that.
They stole the Lion King cover. It's a completely different colored parrot with a child. And the child is definitely going to like lick that bird. Like,
There-
not sexually. Like, you just look at the way he's looking at that bird, and he's gonna try to either eat that bird or lick that bird.
Oh my
no,
god.
that second cover definitely looks like a romance between a boy and a bird.
Oh, you know what the I think this is the Spanish.
It's eat, pray, love with a boy and a bird.
Okay, if you go to the third image, I don't know what language it's in, but it's like the classic high school senior photo with the grandpa and the bird in the background, like in a silhouette. A totally different child looking at the sky, and again, a different colored looking bird with his wings out.
Wait, the title for this movie, I think in German, is Makul. Because there's a poster for it.
Okay,
Amazing.
All I'm saying is, if we want to review the real macaw, I'm fucking down.
This might have to be on the if we ever get our Patreon up, this might have to be on there.
Because I'm looking at the images, and holy shit, this could potentially be. There's one where the bird has a magician cape on and a top hat.
Oh my god!
What in the fuck happened? Like, I somehow see
I'm Google's imaging this. I'm just going down the rabbit hole.
Okay, all I know is I'm starting a spin-off podcast about this movie, The Real Dad Cause.
Wait, there's another movie. I guess it's just like associated called Tommy and the Cool Mule.
It'd be great if they marketed that as a kids film, and it's about the cool
drug mule.
The drug mule, yeah. it's like the sequel to Sicario, and it's just Benicio del Toro fucking murdering mules.
It's sick Cario. Oh my god. Okay, Mondo, give us a song of the day before we it goes too far.
Speaking of parrots, well, okay. So, Jason, have you heard of a little band by the name of Aerosmith?
Yeah, it was the first CD I ever bought was Get a Grip.
Yeah, I'm very sorry. Aerosmith is terrible. The song of the day has nothing to do with Aerosmith.
When you're in middle school, it's Aerosmith is okay.
Yeah.
Dude,
90s Aerosmith in middle school.
But by middle school, I was listening to Metallica and Dark Throne, so I don't feel you there. But no offense to Aerosmith, I'm joking.
Hey,
first of all,
when I was in middle school, I had a copy of Big Ones, which had the udders with the piercing in them.
That's Get a Grip. No, that's Get a Grip.
Oh, okay, but I did have Big Ones.
Big Ones was the compilation.
Yeah, for my childhood and growing up, youth groupie kid, that was kind of edgy. So
welcome to Aerosmith Talk.
Yeah.
No, those music videos, those three in the 90s with Alicia Silverstone.
Well, hold on a second. Alicia Silverstone and his own daughter.
Okay, yeah, so creepy, but also Liz Tyler was on my screen, so I was happy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, like you can throw those videos into my bucket with Jennifer Connelly and Career Expectations, and Jennifer Tilly and April O'Neil. We can go from there. But anyhow, I liked good music, thankfully, and what's funny too about Aerosmith is that Steven Tyler was on the Joe Rogan podcast before Joe Rogan was a fucking complete tool, and he didn't, and they started talking about the song Dream On, and Steven Tyler's like, yeah, man, that's a fucking great song. Who did that?
He forgot. He really. Oh my god.
Oh man, drugs are bad, kids.
And then he went to rehab after that. So can we please not laugh at Mr. Steven Tyler and his rehab stints? I'm just kidding. He's whatever. I'm joking. Anyhow, let's talk about the nice subject of serial killers. So there's a band, a Dutch band from the 90s that went by the name of Gorefest. Because like if I was going to start a band and think, how do I sell a lot of copies and dupe people into buying my record? I would call my band Gorefest. Not that I care. Like I think it's funny when death metal bands like wear their names on their sleeves. But the first record they did in 1991 was a record called Mind Loss. After that, they did a record called False. I forgot their third record, and they came back. Then they went away for a long time and came back in 2004 or 5 and did a record called La Muerte. And then did their final record in 2008, I believe, called something about Ruin. And now I'm gonna have to look this up because it's not gonna sit well with me as I look this up. Oh, Rise to Ruin is the name of it. Anyhow, On the first record, Mind Lost, which in my opinion is one of these staples of early European death metal. I love the fact that if you listen to death metal from that era, if anyone wants to actually dive into it, you had like the American bands like Deicide and Morbid Angel, European bands like from Sweden, like Entombed, and then you had this band from the Dutch band from the Netherlands, Gorefest, and they all had like this unique sound. They're all doing something different. Oh, and Suffocation from New York, who kind of invented the modern slam genre, but did it way better than these modern shit bands do. And they all have their own like little unique styles. And for most people, I totally get this. I'm not gonna knock people that don't like death metal because it's probably just it's all noise. Yeah, you know what? Fuck you. It's not all noise. It's good fucking music, and it's all different. But Mind Lost is one of those records that a buddy of mine turned me on to back in high school. I just kind of fell in love with it. And on this album, so the minute I saw the name of this episode, I was like, all right, I know the song of the day, because one of my favorite death metal songs of all time comes off this record, and it's called Confessions of a Serial Killer, and just has a great bass intro. You get the death metal, the vocals coming in right away, and some of the best vocals I think in death metal on this song. Gorefest is a really cool band to check out. I'd say their first two records and probably their last record. The stuff in between, not so good. But definitely Mind Lost by Gorefest. I think it's fucking 20. How old is that? Holy shit, it's 31 years old. God damn it. But just a great representation for early death metal. And there's a lot of stuff nowadays where this is where I'm the old man yelling at clouds. There's a lot of I pick a lot of old music, but I do want to say that. So I was thinking about this today. There's so much good new music out there, but I do think new music is so much easier to find. It's the old people like our age that say there's no good new music. It's because you're not looking. It's because you're not trying to find good music. There's a lot of good music in every genre out there. Jody just posted something in Slack the other day about some it was like a pop band you posted in there, and on our club channel. I forgot the name of it. And you can what band was it?
It's a guy named Ginger Root. Is what Ginger Root.
Newer band. I listen to the song because I like to listen to different stuff, and it's not my cup of tea. But I'm like, damn, that's a good ass pop song. Like it's good music, and there's a lot of good music out there. But one of the reasons why I just want to say that I go to a lot of the old stuff is because this is stuff you're not going to find unless you search for it. And it's on Apple Music and on Spotify if anyone wants to listen to it. But it's just if anybody's out there in the metal and wants to kind of get away from the modern stuff. Because one thing I find not appealing in modern metal is a lot of the bands sound almost too polished, where you can tell these singers took singing classes to learn how to sing the style, where the older stuff sounded so much as grimier and grittier and more organic, in my opinion. And that's not all of it, please. Like, I don't want anybody listening to think that I don't like new music a lot. I like a lot of new music, but song of the day is going to be Confessions of a Serial Killer off the album Mind Loss from the band Gorefest from the Netherlands. Fantastic band. Please check them out if you have a passing interest in metal. You won't be disappointed.
Armando, I just want to mention when you were listing off some of those other bands, I glanced over and I had just opened a beer a little while ago called Zombie Dust. And I'm like, that could be a name of one of these bands.
Hold on a second. Nice. We got to talk about Zombie Dust now. Dude, Zombie Dust from Three Floyds Brewing Company.
Three Floyds, absolutely.
Dude, that's one of my favorite beers.
It is fantastic.
It's a Citra Pale Ale, super fruity, just super citrusy, just delicious. That's one of those beers that whenever I travel, it's on tap or in a bottle somewhere, I'm on it, dude. Like,
yeah.
With you can't get
fantastic can art by comic artist Tim Seeley on there.
Pop that can up on screen for any of our YouTube watchers.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you're not watching on YouTube, why? Great.
You get to see our faces. But yeah,
Three Floyds from Illinois. They're based out of Illinois, a couple hours outside of Chicago. I don't know if they ever reopened their tap room after COVID or not. But if you like Three Floyds, another good one by them is Gumball Head.
Yeah,
it's
I get that one too. If you're a horror fan and you happen to see a beer in the beer aisle that has some kind of horror picture on it, there's a good chance it's Three Floyds. They do a lot of that kind of stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah, Three Floyds is cool.
All right, thank you, Mondo. Jody, give us some trivia.
All right, so today I decided to go with some library trivia since this episode was set in a library fun facts.
Snars.
Yeah.
Go.
Working in the rare books room.
Yeah.
All right. So this one may be something you all know, but Benjamin Franklin started the first library in the United States in 1731. But words.
Philip Glass.
Philanthropist.
Philanthropist.
Yes,
Philanderer?
philanthropist and Andrew Carnegie
Phalange.
donated 55 million, or about 1.6 billion in today's dollars, between 1886 and 1919 to open 2,509 libraries worldwide.
That's cool.
So you know what? Some billionaires do good things. The Library of Congress pays to reproduce popular magazines in Braille, including Playboy. I don't know how Playboy in Braille works, but you know what? Good for you.
The articles, man.
Good for you. I'm just reading it for the articles. I guess, applies more when you're reading it in Braille.
You know, it's funny. Look up journalism in Penthouse and Playboy. And I actually, a guy who's a wrestling journalist, Brian Alvarez, who I think I've been a subscriber to his newsletter since the 90s. He talks about, hey, he was a wrestling guy in Penthouse, and Penthouse and Playboy actually gave like an avenue to a lot of journalists who were kind of snubbed by the big publications, who ended up going on to do famous things, because they were just like, if you have an interesting idea, we'll fucking print it. And so like one of the jokes is when you hear people say like, I read it for the articles, there were legit people out there that were reading it for the articles.
No, that's totally work.
Because which I'm not gonna lie, I didn't know about back in the day, because when I was young getting Penthouse and Playboy, let's just say I wasn't reading it for the articles. No.
Yeah, but a lot of fiction writers too. A lot of good fiction published in Playboy.
Yeah.
All right, next library fact. Texas is home to a gigantic Walmart turned library. The Mcallen Public Library in McAllen, Texas is housed in a converted Walmart and might be the single largest one-story library location in the country. It is 123,000 square feet, and it has a computer lab, a cafe, and a 180-seat auditorium in this library. So it's gigantic. Library books can be full of surprises and covered in them too. If you're wondering how dirty library books can become after passing through so many hands, the answer is very dirty. Everything from traces of cocaine to herpes to has been found in library books. I don't know what people are doing with the books. I don't do that with my books when I check them out, but just be careful. Apparently no one's actually ever caught anything from the books though. So you may have a herpes book, but as long as you're not getting weird with it, you're probably okay.
Don't fuck your herpes book.
Don't do lines off your herpes book.
Yeah, keep your herpes books away from the sensitive places.
You gentlemen with younger children, can I ask you a book question?
Yeah.
Yes. Are pop-up books still a thing?
Yeah. No, they exist. They're. If I bring a pop-up book home, it's getting broken. Because
I was gonna say they don't last long.
They last about 30 minutes and then they're just torn to pieces. But
because when we were a kid, if you got a pop-up book, that was the shit. Like,
it
was like, fuck yeah, okay. So I assume they're still around, but kids aren't as excited about them anymore.
Yeah. As an adult, though, have you ever run across a pop-up book that just blew your mind? Like you were in a bookstore and you opened up some fancy pop-up book and like, holy crap, this is the most amazing thing I've ever seen. Because I've had that experience.
Okay, we need details because I've not, and I'm.
Look up some of the fancy like fantasy pop-up books and things like that. Some of them are mind-blowing, the things they do with folded paper. All right, a couple more. Not all libraries require silence. The Tikkarulia Library in Vanta, Finland. I said every word of that other than Finland wrong. Has a karaoke room with thousands of songs for guests to perform.
Right now, there's a Finnish person going like, he didn't say Finland right either.
But there's a karaoke room in this library with thousands of songs, and the room is soundproof. So if you're studying for a test while you're in there, the karaoke can continue. And lastly, there's a library in Alaska that has a taxidermy collection, and you can use your library card to borrow them. I don't know why you'd be like, you know what I need? I need a dead moose in my house, but only temporarily. I just need one for a little while. I'm trying to impress a girl.
And you can only renew it.
3 raccoons and a squirrel mounted on my wall before this girl comes over. I guess Alaska dating is different.
Speaking of Alaska, have any of you guys watched the show The Great North?
Oh,
which one's that?
It's a cartoon show basically with Nick Offerman
no.
about a family that lives in Alaska.
From the people who made Bob's Burgers.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And also,
It's
if you
so
guys
good.
haven't seen it, the Bob's Burgers, the movie, so good. I'm not gonna say I cried, but I was feeling it there for a minute.
So I will. So
and you
then
prob-
what you're saying is, if you're saying I didn't, but I felt it, I will be like,
you haven't seen it
wiping
yet?
my eyes, taking my glasses.
You
off.
haven't seen it yet?
I haven't yet.
Yeah, it's great. Like God
Probably
damn it.
tomorrow night with my kids.
Nice.
'Cause we all love
they'll
Bob's Burgers.
they'll really enjoy it. Like, man, it was so good that my wife was like, "Is that the end of the series?" I'm like, "Oh, I hope not, because I'll cry. I'll fucking lose it right now."
Yeah.
It was that good. Like, just the whole. I'm just saying, like, if you haven't seen that, God, I'm so happy it's on HBO Max right now. If anybody hasn't seen it out there, it's such a good movie.
Breaking news, Mondo, you really buried the lead on the real macaw that John Goodman is the voice of the freaking parrot.
That's what I said.
Holy crap.
No, you said John Goodman was in it. You didn't say he was the
I
voice.
didn't realize he was the voice. I'm
I
putting this all
100%.
together in my head
I
now.
know.
All right. So,
And
so here's the things. I'm just gonna break some news right now about the podcast. We're definitely gonna start a podcast. We're definitely gonna start a Patreon. No, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna go in there because I have some ideas now, but I do want to review the fucking real macaw. And if he doesn't say you're out of your element at some point, I'll be very upset.
there's also an actor that got really excited when I saw this named John Waters in this movie. And I was like,
it's not the John.
it's
Waters.
not. I was so disappointed. It was not the John Waters.
This is a G-rated sequel to Pink Flamingos.
Oh my god. Pinker flamingos.
Don't be gross, Jason.
You can't get any grosser than that movie.
How pink can a flamingo actually get? Like, it depends, but
John Waters will find a way. Okay. Moving on to our dad advice. We didn't really have anything prepared. We've kind of gone off the rails multiple times this episode. Do we have anything? Any library advice?
well,
I mean, if you have a local library, use it. Like, it's good. And if you have kids, take them to the library, I think, because expose them to books. It was good for me as a kid.
Also for libraries, reading to your kids is kind of a big deal.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also though, like, I also think it's very important. And I was lucky enough in high school to have a teacher. Shout out to Mr. Brad Edom, because he's on Facebook. We're Facebook friends. My favorite teacher ever. And I'm not afraid to say, like, a genuine adult when I was young that I kind of connected with and who changed my life for the better. Like, legit. I mean that in 100%. I'm not trying to be funny. I mean that in 100% honesty, because he introduced me to a lot of, he treated me like I was a human being, which when you're young, a lot of times you don't get that. But B, also introduced us to a lot of literature that I probably would not. Well, I definitely would not have read if he introduced, like we were in English AP in high school reading Albert Camus' The Stranger.
Oh, nice.
And stuff like that really, like, kind of really helped change my outlook on life in a positive way, even though there's not a whole lot of positive. Yeah, Jody, like, huh? The Stranger, not a whole lot of positive good to go The Stranger, but just when you surround yourself with different ideas and different thoughts, it can help you open up your world. So I think reading your kids is really important, and exposing them to different kinds of literature, and also letting them kind of read what they want to read, like, just because there's a lot of young adult stuff out right now, which is really cool. And you might not get it, I might not get it. Doesn't fucking matter what we get, and we understand. If our kids get something out of it, so help expose them to literature. It's good stuff. And also, shout out to the Libby app. If you guys aren't aware of the Libby,
oh man, Libby is so good.
Libby's so great. You link your library card to it, and you can borrow books and download them right to your Kindle. And I read so many books thanks to Libby. And that kind of, over pandemic, I was like, holy shit, I don't have to pay for everything. Not that paying's a bad thing, but you know what I mean, though. Like, when you just borrow from the library and read it, it's really, really good. And just if I can bring up a story from this past weekend, when I was in Philly, I was at the airport, and they have a book exchange at the airport. Nice. Just take a book, or leave a book, or swap a book. And I saw, sound like a bougie motherfucker, where the Amex lounge is. That's right. I hang at the Amex lounge at airports. I travel for a living. It's not glamorous. But I went to go sit by there because I had to wait 10 minutes, because you can only go in the lounge 3 hours before your flight. So I'm just hanging out by this thing. I see a family who just got off an international flight, and I know that because that's the international area. And they they're
Terminal.
walking from the terminal. Yeah, they're walking from the gate, and they saw the book exchange, and like the whole family, it was 2 kids and 2 adults. Their eyes lit up, and they're super excited about it. And they went and they picked out some books, and like there's a ton of books. The books are overflowing. So I thought that was pretty cool. So like if you guys have anything in your town, like keep an eyeball on that. But just like like as many different media formats as we go through, books will never die. And support your local bookseller. I bought the new Paul Tremblay book, The Pallbearers Club, from a local bookseller in Phoenixville, because it's got cool little liner notes about everything. And Paul Tremblay's like, the Kindle version is cool. Have you read it already?
I haven't read it, but I love Paul Tremblay.
Paul Tremblay's so good. And he's like an English teacher in high school.
Oh, really?
Or something. That's like awesome. That. Yeah. If you follow him on social media, he's such a cool guy. And like it's kind of weird when you think that there's kids in his class that probably don't know just how great of an author he really is. But it's cool to support if you can. I'm not going to knock anybody that buys stuff on Amazon. I get it. Times are tough. Inflation sucks. Like, but if you do have a local store, like if you can, try to support it.
Yeah, my neighbors have one of those book exchange in front of their houses, so it's cool.
That's super cool.
Yeah, I'm always walking my dogs. I'm always kind of peeking in. So I got Train Spotting. It's the thing I chose out of there. The book.
That's cool.
I've looked at a little bit. I have trouble reading from physical books. It's mentally much easier for me to read from a Kindle because they have different fonts and stuff.
Sure.
But libraries are just so cool because they just have freaking everything. Like it's just like a gold mine to go through. So I remember when I was a kid, I was too afraid to watch most any real horror movies, but they had a lot of like horror adjacent books. So I remember they had one that was like basically that was Nightmare on Elm Street, like the illustrated book, where it kind of had like the basic plot, but like just like pictures of scenes from the movie. Dude. So that was like the first that was the first Nightmare on Elm Street movie I experienced.
By far, my best introduction to horror as a kid was my school library. Like the school library had these books that were like some of them were like paranormal books, like Real Ghost and stuff like that, And then there were also these books that were about all these different types of monsters in movies. So there'd be like a book about vampires and a book about mummies and all this stuff. I checked that shit out constantly, man, as a kid. And that's really what first put my foot in the door because it would talk about the movies. It would talk about the books. And that's what got me into horror. And then, my local small town library, I remember the day that I moved from the children's section to the adult section. Like I was probably in like 6th, 7th grade, something like that. And I went over, my first Stephen King book came from the library. And I think that copy's still in my local library too.
Real fast. What book was that?
Firestarter was the first Stephen King. And now my kids are about at the age that they're like, I've not been finding as many kids books that I like anymore. And so I'm recommending Firestarter. And I think my 13-year-old's going to read Firestarter sometime in the next few weeks.
That's awesome.
If they watch the new movie.
And then we got the new movie if you want to, or you can go back and watch the Drew Barrymore one if you want to as well. But I think sometimes because libraries have always been in our lives, it's easy to forget how cool it is that a place exists full of all kinds of knowledge, full of stories and fiction and all this stuff. And it's just there. It's just there, and it's free for anybody to participate in.
And even more so,
real fast, tell me guys right now, and that's you're talking about libraries. You all aren't getting nostalgic for that library smell.
Oh yeah.
No,
also,
I love that smell.
What's even cooler about libraries, especially now, I don't think they had this when we were kids, is that a lot of them have comic books and graphic novels.
Oh yeah.
So I went through a big graphic novel phase. I was renting them from the library, and then for a while in my 20s, I had this like little apartment next to this kind of shopping center, and there was a satellite library. It was like just the size of a small store, but you could order movies online through the system and have them shipped directly there. So that's how I was watching. This is like pre-Netflix.
Man, yeah, they had if only they'd have marketed that. They had Netflix.
I know exactly. But remember there was like a Blockbuster in the same one, but like fuck Blockbuster, I'm going over here to the library, going online and ordering all the new movies and see what they have on the racks.
Most libraries do that interlibrary loan thing where if they don't have it, they'll get it for you. Like just the fact that this exists for free is kind of mind blowing. Like literally, if you want to read a book, they will put it in your hands. That's amazing.
I didn't think about that because they do that down here, but we also have like 8 to 10 libraries in our city. Sure. Whereas in a small city, that's actually they have to work to get you that book, and that's kind of cool. That's kind of cool.
And also they defend free speech, and one of the last bastions against the bastards out there who are trying to take away our books.
The bastards out there.
I live in Tennessee. They're everywhere.
Yeah, especially in Tennessee. There's a man by the name of Glenn Jacobs, who's the mayor of Knox County, Tennessee, and fuck that guy. Fuck you, Glenn Jacobs. Fuck you. And I hope you stub your toe on your ottoman.
All right. Well, now that we got our fuck you, Glenn Jacobs out of the way.
One more thing.
Okay,
so when you guys are discovering horror, I have a very vivid memory of these orange books about the Wolfman and Dracula. And
I think that's the ones I read.
Yeah, that sounds really familiar.
Me too. That's like was one of my original introductions to horror. And I remember about a year ago, someone posted on Twitter, and it just blew open a whole like wall of nostalgia for me, because like that's when I discovered like Universal Monsters, and I went down the rabbit hole of horror at a very, very young age. So
yeah, I discovered from those books way before I ever started watching horror movies.
If anyone knows what those books are, wants to email us or tweet us,
please. I want to know the name of them. I want to hunt them down.
But I also want to say though, like when it comes to going back to some dad advice, so like don't force your kids to read.
Yes.
And I mean this the best way possible, because it's, if you like to read, I think your kids are going to pick some of that up. What's funny is that my daughter went through phases of loving to read, not wanting to read, and now she's graduated, she's back into reading again, which I love. But you know what? There are adults who don't like to read, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like I don't want to, like I hate the mentality of that. Like if you don't read, you're not intellectual. You know what? Because that's the same shit that we got when we were kids of reading comic books, right? Like you read garbage. Nah, man, if your kids like to read comic books, embrace that shit. Comic books have actually been proven to use a larger vocabulary than most novels. So there's a lot of cool outlets there if your kids do like to read. If I don't like to read, I say all your best, and you love to read and they don't, your best options is to throw them recommendations here and again. Yeah. But don't like push it too hard. Don't try to demean them because they're not readers. Because for like a lot of us, and again, man, shout out to fucking Mr. Edom in high school, is up before I started taking his classes, I kind of fell out of love with reading because I was forced to read all kinds of shit that was just like, you know what? Let's be honest. War and Peace sucks. Like, I swear to God that they just fucking make you read that book in high school because it's long and your teachers don't want to talk to you and actually teach you. Crime and Punishment was okay, but it's not great. But then, like, when I got to his class and read like Things Fall Apart by Achebe, I'm like, holy shit, this is great. So like your kids aren't always going to like every book they're assigned. Let them find what they love. And you know what? If that's not their thing and they get into manga or is it manga? I don't remember.
I think it's manga, technically.
Or they get into graphic novels or comic books. Like, fucking embrace that, man. Like, embrace that consumption of media and art, or they want to be, or if they want to get into film, that's okay too. Like, film's an art form, and not everyone's going to be a reader. So, like, don't get on your kids that don't love reading. Some people are never going to love reading, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And you always see all these lists, like, 100 books to read before you die or whatever. Life's short. Read what you want. Like, read the books that interest you and make you want to read more.
And like, if I can shout out my favorite series over pandemic, thanks to a wrestler named Lance Storm, I discovered the Repairman Jack series. Is it Citizen Kane? No. Did I enjoy every goddamn book in that series? Yes. Am I glad I read that and not War and Peace? Fuck yes. So, I think the real goal of a good book is to lose yourself in that book and forget about everything outside. Just be in the moment. So, whatever genre or author or style can do that for you, that's what you should be reading.
Absolutely.
Well, that wraps up another Mcallen episode. Next week, we will be reviewing Split Personality. And if everything works out, we're gonna have a really cool guest, so you're gonna want to definitely check that one out. We appreciate everyone for listening. We'd really appreciate it if you give us a rating and review on iTunes, and a rating on Spotify. And with that, we thank you for listening to Dads from the Crypt.
Caw. I don't even know if that's the sound that macaws make.
But it works. It works.
It works.
Follow Dads from the Crypt on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, or I will follow you to the grave. No, seriously, you really should watch. But be careful what you ask for. You may get it.